This week in East Brunswick, we'll take you on a guided tour of the Cornelius Lowe House, an historic structure overlooking the Raritan River, which Middlesex County's Cultural and Heritage Commission is restoring as a county museum. Also on this week's program, Mary Tenaccio of the Township Consumer Affairs Department will discuss the purchase of an automobile. Our final item will be coverage of this week's Township Council meeting. The Cornelius Lowe House, known to many residents as Ivy Hall, has been overlooking the Raritan River near the present-day site of Landing Lane Bridge for over 2 centuries. Now open to the public as a county museum, the house and its grounds have recently been the site of a great deal of archaeological activity. The current exhibit features artifacts found during those digs. Bobby Hutchings of the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission gave us a tour of the exhibit.
The museum was acquired by Middlesex County in 1979 and is now open from 1 to 4 on weekdays for the public to attend and see the exhibits that we have here. The Cornelius Lowe House is under the auspices of the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission. Our current exhibit is entitled The Cornelius Lowe House, Life at Raritan Landing. It's sponsored by the Friends of Ivy Hall, the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission, the New Jersey State Museum, and funded partially by the New Jersey Committee for the Humanities and New Jersey Bell Telephone. Right now we have the artifacts that were excavated during the Raritan Landing dig, which took place from September to December of 1979. Raritan Landing was a village that was started in the 1690s by Dutch settlers and was in existence here right across the street, and this house was actually part of it until the 19th century. It was phased out because railroads came along and the port was no longer needed for transportation. This house was at one time part of a bustling river port, and in 1978, when a sewer was going to be put through across the street, Lorraine Williams, the curator of archaeology at the New Jersey State Museum, called up the Department of Environmental Protection and advised them that a sewer might destroy a potentially rich archaeological area. At that time, in March of 1978, the Rutgers Archaeological Survey Office was hired to come in for 3 days and find out if there were archaeological artifacts in that area. At that time, they did some trench tests, and they did find 1,500 artifacts, and so the sewer project was halted temporarily so that the area could be excavated. After that, a radar map was done to determine the boundaries of the archaeological site. The radar map shows different depths of where things were buried, and it also showed that there would be no place for the sewer to go through without destroying some archaeological artifacts. The radar map was taken from a map done by Cornelius in 1936. He reconstructed where property boundaries might be along Landing Lane and who had lived in certain sites at Raritan Landing. And the radar map coincides almost exactly with Cornelius Vermeule's map. This photo mosaic was taken by a camera suspended 27 feet above the dig site. These foundations were built in the 1730s, and this foundation was a post-Revolutionary War foundation, probably built to replace these 2 foundations. These 2 foundations were built by John Bodine, who was a freighter and forwarder at the landing, and this foundation was probably also built by him, but after the Revolutionary War. In this case, we have things that were recovered from this foundation in the lower right-hand corner here. The bottle was very important because it allowed the archaeologists to date what they were finding. The bottle is from 1732. The Delft bowl, typical of the Dutch, was found in many fragments. Some of them were found during the tests that were taken in March of 1978, and other parts of it were found during the actual dig. In this case, you can see the slip-decorated earthenware, which was typical of the kind that was used and made in New Jersey during the 18th century. You can also see some of the shells, which let us know what kind of food the people ate during that time. On the wall here, you can see pictures of members of the archaeological crew doing activities during the dig. This is the radar mapping in progress at the excavation site. Up here you can see someone using the radar map that we saw earlier. Over here you can see the way the ground was laid out with strings and 5-foot grids, and the digging took place within those grids. This is a picture of Melba Myers, the on-site conservator, working with a ceramic bowl that was found. One of the problems that the people who lived on the flats by the river had is that their land continually flooded from the river. After the Revolutionary War, when the settlers went back to rebuild their town, they put a layer of fill on top of the soil that was already there. The archaeologists, when doing the dig, found 2 pits dug in the fill that were probably garbage pits. These are pictures of the pits. You can see in one of them a wine bottle, still in situ here, and at the bottom of the other pit is a skeleton of a dog. Now we'll move to the cases and see some of the artifacts that were actually found in those pits. These are the artifacts that were found in the pit that the skeleton of the dog was at the bottom of. The wine bottles were very important because they allowed the archaeologists to date the entire pit. The other artifacts that are here are probably things that belong to a member of the British Army. You can see the Westerwald mug, the pipe, and the saucer, and over here some third guard buttons. Finding these things was very important because it allowed the archaeologists to know that the third guard was actually at Raritan Landing. And it's believed that Cornwallis was actually using this house for a while as his headquarters. Now let's go across the hall and take a look at some of the post-Revolutionary War artifacts. This case shows artifacts recovered from John Bray's warehouse, which was on the downriver side of Landing Lane, probably across the street from where John Bodine's warehouse was. John Bray didn't acquire property until 1778, and that's probably about when his warehouse was built. In this case, you can see the Jersey ceramics and redware, and also some imported items. Particularly important is the Dutch tile fragment right here, which is the same style as the ones that are in this house upstairs in the fireplaces. This is the Janeway Broughton Daybook, which shows transactions between John Bodine, who owned the warehouses here, the forwarder and freighter, and the store itself. Raritan Landing was an important place where trade came in, and John Bodine would then take the grain and goods that came in at the landing and bring them up to the store. In addition to the artifacts and photographs that you've seen on exhibit here, we also have other activities for the public to enjoy. We have a slideshow and a videotape, and we also have workshops that are especially for groups that come here. Right now we're going to go into the other room, and I'll briefly describe how the workshops are conducted. Here we have a 3-by-3-foot box that's filled with dirt, where people in groups can come and actually excavate an area of the box, like the same way the archaeologists would do it in the field. They use the same tools, trowel, dustpan, excavate small areas at a time, and put the dirt that they've excavated through a screen to look for objects. And here we have a key that was one of the objects planted in this section. Groups also fill out a field book, the same way that archaeologists would do it in the field, and learn how to record accurately the site that they're working in, exactly where the objects that they find were, and the type of soil, and then make observations about whether they're digging in a plow zone, a living floor, refuse deposit, or what kind of area. The objects that are found are put in a bag like this, so that other groups can take the bags, look through the objects, and try to make some observations about the people that actually lived in the area that these objects came from. If you'd like to visit the Cornelius Lowe House, your county museum, we'd certainly like to have you here. It belongs to all the people of Middlesex County, and East Brunswick is a major part of our county. We're at 1225 River Road in Piscataway, and we're open daily from 1 to 4. We can accommodate groups by arrangement. If you'd like further information or to make a reservation for a group, please call 201-745-4489 between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. We'll also be having 4 symposia coming up on Sundays during February, March, and April. The first one is on February 20th and deals with life at the landing here, the village that this house was once a part of. The next one is on March 13th, the next one on March 27th, and the last one on April 9th. If you'd like a schedule of the symposia, call 201-745-4489 and we'll be happy to send you one. Thank you for visiting with us today, and I hope I'll see you here in person sometime soon.
For fun and friends, get going with the Girl Scouts.
Hello, and welcome once again to Consumer Aware. I'm Mary Tenaccio, and for this consumer program, we are going to discuss the purchasing of an automobile. An automobile is one of the most expensive purchases you will make as a consumer. We urge you to shop around before purchasing an automobile, shop for price, and shop for anything else that you would be interested in. Remember, if you walk in and you are looking at an automobile tonight and you see one and you like it, and you leave a deposit of $50 or $100, whatever is required, and tomorrow evening you see one that you like just as well and it's less expensive or it has more to offer, keep in mind that first deposit that you left is not necessarily refundable. So we urge you to carefully shop around first before signing a contract or before leaving a deposit. When purchasing a car, there are some helpful hints that you should know, rights that you have that you should be aware of. The actual price of any car, including all charges, except for the cost of license and taxes, should be disclosed to you. The manufacturer's suggested retail price should be posted. All optional equipment for that automobile must be posted. The number of advertised cars that they advertise must be in stock. If it is not in stock, then the advertisement must state that very clearly. All documentary services must be itemized, as well as charges for each service the dealer gives you. Check the window sticker to see if the dealer preparation charges has been reimbursed to the dealer or if you have to pay for them. Because the law states that if the dealer is reimbursed, you do not pay those charges. They are supposed to deliver the car on time, unless, of course, the dealer cannot control the problem. All terms and limitations of warranties must be disclosed to you. When purchasing a car, make sure you understand and you know all your rights. If you are not 100% sure, then make sure that you contact someone like your Consumer Affairs office that can send you the information that you will need, and it will be to your advantage. It's your money, and you do not want to waste it. Thanks so much for listening in today. Hope to see you again next week with some more helpful hints.
At this week's Township Council meeting, members discussed and voted on a proposal to rezone 10 acres of the Kelemen farm on Riders Lane, changing it from a C2 zone, Neighborhood Business District, to an R2 zone, Suburban Residence District. Kelemen was at the meeting with his lawyer. Attorney Carmelo Iaria explained his client's objections to the ordinance amendment.
Looking at this ordinance, I'd like you to consider the effect of it. The effect is merely to deny Mr. Kelemen the right to go in and improve the existing vegetable stand at the corner of Riders Lane and Cranberry Road. There's no other effect. The zoning does proceed down Riders Lane somewhat towards Town Hall here, but to even consider the fact that that would be developed commercially is nonsense. It never will be. So the net effect of the ordinance is primarily against Kelemen's interest. And you're reminded that this has been zoned this way for many, many years, I believe since the 50s. They've owned the property for more than 40 years and have been in town a great deal of time in addition. The other effect of the ordinance is to create animosity, ill will, and perhaps mistrust on the part of Mr. Kelemen. You know what you want to do in that area. He does also. You can believe it or not, but he's attempted to cooperate with the planning in the town. If you pass this ordinance, I think he's going to withdraw. The net effect of that to you and to this township is going to be the expenditure of hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire that land someday and to improve it. Because if he doesn't sell it, you're not going to do anything about it. And all in all, the only justification you have for even considering the ordinance is the fact that the Town Green Master Plan does show it somewhat to be residential. I understood when the master plan was passed that the underlying zoning, including this, was more or less locked in and wouldn't be changed. If you look at the master plan, I believe it's page 30, the Town Green aspect of it, you'll find that it does show this to be residential. But by the same token, it does show his land on Cranberry Road to be commercial. And to use a farm expression, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're going to pass it this way, that you should consider zoning the balance of his land, as shown in the master plan, for commercial. So there's an anomaly here. It doesn't make sense to me. And I urge you not to pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Later, council members Jerome O'Connor and Geraldine Weber and Township Administrator John Runyon discussed the pros and cons of the ordinance.
As Mr. Ieri explained, this had been presented to the council last fall, and my objections tonight are the same that they were in the fall of 1982. One of the things that we were concerned about was that it seemed to me that we would be depriving Mr. Kelemen of the use of his land as he saw for many, many years, and that is that he wanted to provide a small commercial area for the use of his sons. And for a person to spend as many years with that land as Mr. Kelemen did and have it rezoned and have that wish taken away from him, to me, is something that I certainly wouldn't consider. By the same token, we felt that there was some, at least I felt there was some need for compromise in establishing the town green as it is existing in the master plan. And we had suggested to the administration that they move that commercial area that lies parallel to Riders Lane and move that around to be parallel to Cranberry Road, which seems to me would be somewhat compatible with what's across Cranberry Road, and that is a commercial area. The administration has chosen not to do so and is still wishing to zone that whole area R2. So my vote tonight will not be any different than it was before.
As to the vegetable stand that is on the corner, Mr. Kelemen has a farm there. As long as Mr. Kelemen has a farm there, Mr. Kelemen is permitted under our zoning ordinance to have a vegetable stand for the sale of farm products, just as that one, nicer, worse, whatever way he wants. That our ordinances allow that for all farmers in our communities. If Mr. Kelemen wanted to do something other than have a vegetable stand for the sale of products from his own property, then of course he'd have to come to the planning board for site plan approval. In that instance, in our zoning ordinance, and I have told his attorney and him over and over again that in the potential development of that property, we could accommodate what he wants to accomplish on that corner, if that's where he wants to accomplish it for his use and that of his children, by laying out a basic plan for the development of the property in terms of striking where the roads are basically going to be, which are in the master plan, etc., and simply say that, and simply design it in such a way that the corner can be utilized for what he wants. What's now a corner, it won't be a corner in the future. without any problem. That is not a problem. He would be allowed to continue that existing use and any future thing that he wanted to do in that regard under the zoning, regardless of its C2 or the overlay zone. So that's just not an issue. With regard to the underlying zone, we have rezoned the entire municipality in accordance with the master plan except this one parcel. We have not been discriminatory to Mr. Kelemen or any other particular property owner. The master plan was adopted and all of the zoning was changed to conform to that master plan, overlay and underlay, except for this one parcel. But we do want to preclude someone from coming in and buying this approximately 10-acre parcel of land and throwing up a grand union or something of that nature. That would be in total contradistinction to the design of the town green area, and that's the kind of wrong use that we hope to preclude, and the kind of wrong uses we precluded by rezoning in the township in accordance with the master plan everywhere except here. Thank you.
It's an extremely sensitive area. It is the town green area, which is projected for the development of what we would like to see as the center of the township of East Brunswick. The area that we're talking about, which borders basically Riders Lane towards the bend as it comes towards the municipal building, is about 10 acres along Riders Lane. It is now commercial. If we rezone it to R2, Mr. Kelemen still has the right to run his vegetable stand there, but he cannot expand that use and use that 10 acres for additional commercial. It is my feeling it is the best interest of the township not to have commercial development along that portion of Riders Lane, which is basically, depending on how you look at it, an extension of Cranberry Road. The entire idea for the town green is to have that area developed as a package so that there will be uniformity in terms of how the roads are laid out, in terms of how the open space is situated with the road configuration, in terms of how the commercial development is set up, as well as the residential development. Not to do that can result in piecemeal planning. And we all are very familiar with piecemeal planning. That's exactly what happened to Route 18. And we don't want that to happen to Cranberry Road and to that intersection of Routes and Riders. So that I don't think that we're really doing any damage to Mr. Kelemen or in the use of his property. He can continue to use the vegetable stand there. In fact, by the town green overlay, which puts in a somewhat higher density in residential development, we have, in fact, in previous zoning actions, increased the value of his property tremendously. So I think that for the general good of the township, this ordinance should be adopted.
The council voted 3-2 for the amendment, normally enough for passage. However, Attorney Iaria pointed out that a 2/3 vote is necessary to pass an ordinance which is under protest. Township Attorney Bush said he will look into the matter. For now, the ordinance remains in limbo. And don't forget, the Township Council budget hearings will be cablecast live this Saturday morning beginning at 9 a.m.